beautiful Sunday afternoon at Cambrian Hall, the place that I love the most. We just finished a wonderful podcast with Sonam Rana ma'am. She is the director at Cambrian Hall. And I really enjoyed this conversation. I thought it's going to be a very formal conversation with lots of formal questions and answers. But I was very lucky that I could hear lots of stories about the Nepal, the royal family, her childhood days. And what was her entire experience about United Nations and working with United Nations and the learnings that she had at the United Nations, which she's brought to Cambrian Hall, now part of the Board of Trust. So it's a wonderful conversation. You should also hear about what's happening in Cambrian Hall behind the scene in terms of how they are trying to run it and make it a standout school in Dehradun. Also, we close the podcast by knowing what's stored for us in the next 30 years or so. And I have also asked what's the plan for 2054 when we celebrate 100 years of Cambrian Hall. So yeah, please watch it. It's going to be an interesting one and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Okay, good morning, ma'am. How are you?
All good. Good morning, Sachin.
Thank you very much, first of all, to finally agreeing to sit and have this conversation. I appreciate the fact that you're extremely busy and you have to travel a bit as well, but I'm very, very happy and thank you very much for finally taking out time and we managed to get this done. So thank you very much. So first thing first, I thought I'll let that tell you in advance.
Thank you too, Sachin. It's a pleasure and a privilege for me to be here and to be part of this. You know, for me, Cambrian Hall is very close to my heart, and so are all of you Cambrianites. You know, you've been such a support here, and anytime we're always there for you.
Okay, so, ma'am, you know, my emotions are wherever I walk into this campus, and I think I'm speaking on behalf of. I'm privileged that I speak a lot of things on behalf of a lot of my fellow Cambrianites. So, I don't think I could ask for a better day in my life, and on a Sunday, relaxing day, beautiful sun, right, in Dehradun, my favorite place in the world. So tell us, you're privileged to live in a place like Dehradun and in this most beautiful campus, Cambrian Hall. So tell us, usually on a typical, let's talk about a working day. So typical working day, how does your day look like?
Well, my day basically begins with taking care of my daughter. I have a young girl at home who's 14 and she's going to school. So we start the day off together. And then I sort of read up on what's going on in the school and outside, inside. And then talk and catch up with our senior management here and go and see the children sometimes. On a day I have lunch with them, the borders that we have. Sometimes I spend time with the middle school kids. Sometimes with the junior kids. That's the real pleasure that I get out of being here and why I'm here, essentially.
So you like to do a lot of tour, every place is all different.
I just enjoy the space. I enjoy the children. And for me, the school, of course, is the curriculum and academics and everything else and the building. But more than that, I think it's the children that are asking questions when I hear their voices, when I hear them rumbling through the corridors, all these questions and the bell ringing like you asked me. You know, it keeps me connected with why I'm here and what we as a community of learners in Cambrian Hall, what we are trying to do. So that gives me it's the honest truth. I really, you know, it makes my day. When I'm really sad or worried about something and I look at the children and their faces, I feel much better. I go and have dinner with them. You know, I sit in the dining hall or, you know, I go. And it really makes a difference when you see that you're making a difference.
Let me put you on a spot. So let's say you're going to a boarding at any point of time. So would the kids walk up to you if in case they have a problem? Or they would be shy, they might not, they go to the warden, or would they be comfortable speaking to you?
See, we have a system, right? I don't want to supersede the wardens and supersede our team there, because they're really trying to do their job.
Yes.
I'm very mindful of that, but at the same time, the children know that there is an open door policy.
Lovely.
Not just in the dining hall, but they are free to come to me at any point, and I do get to talk. We have children with special needs, you know, somebody with dyslexia, a lot of children whose parents are separated. So I make that special effort to stay connected with them and to make these children realize that this is their home too, and we are their family. So I do that a lot. Not just me, but I think our wardens and others do that too.
Okay.
We encourage that a lot.
Okay. Okay.
The pastoral care.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that I'm just talking about the leadership part in the school. So you are there, Krishna sir is there, our principal sir is there. So I'm just trying to understand from a Cambrianite perspective. If we have three of you, right? Let's assume a hypothetical situation that doesn't exist, but let's say hypothetically, three of you are coming at 3 different times, and I am a fellow Cambrianite, and I'm for some reason, let's say homesick, not doing well in studies, etc. What do you think, or what do you assume? What do you think Cambrianite will walk between? So they will approach you, principal sir, or Krishna sir, and you're coming at 3 different timing. Whom do you think they'll come to?
See, our rules are very different, right? The Krishna sir, who is the president of the board, his functions and what he does is very different from what the principal does, let's say. And essentially, the school is run by the principal, and we are very privileged to have a high-performing team of coordinators. We have a dean of academics, we have senior, junior. You know, there is not just one principal. He's supported by a whole team.
Correct. 100%.
And the school is run by them. My role as the director, what they call me a director right now, is more of a strategic role. I don't get involved in the day-to-day implementation. I basically look at where the school is, how the school should go, trying to benefit from the legacy that we've inherited as a school. Not just replicating what was, which is very important, but building on the best of what was to create a future that should be. So that's the role that I sort of sit on, and looking at ways to make this, provide an enabling environment in the school, and to be there for the children, and to sort of be the, to live the practice that we are trying to preach, saying that, be accessible to the children, be accessible to the teachers. So that's what I do. But the school and its management is run by the principal and by a team of senior managers plus a whole community here, and doing a superb job, by the way. So I come in when there is a gap, or if somebody feels they need to see me, or or when I feel that the attention needs to be given to specific areas, and I listen to what's happening in the school, not just inside, of course, which is important, but I also listen outside to see what the best practices are and how to bring that to bear, Given my experience of having worked overseas, and seen many schools, both outside and inside, and Delhi, and, and trying to bring, because I feel Cambrian Hall can be the best that that exists.
Ma'am, hold your thought. I will come back to the school and the day-to-day running of the school. But you did mention about the legacy, right? So let me just ask you more about, tell us, because you are carrying forward the legacy of Colonel Shashi Shamsher and Rani Chandra Lakshmi. So tell us your first maybe interaction, your first remembrance about them as people, when you would have first initially met them, whenever that was.
Yeah, I come from Nepal. I'm born and brought up in Nepal, and I've lived a very different life. But, and of course, Nepal at that time when I was growing up, it was a small community where everyone knew everybody, more or less.
Like Dehradun.
Like Dehradun, yeah, Kathmandu was like that. That's why I love Dehradun so much, and I fit right in.
In fact, as you speak, I'll tell you a coincidence. So, earlier this year, last year, sometime in April, May, when we had gone for Cambrian Alumni, Nepal chapter, and I was saying in a very nice way, when all of us, like me, Shabnam ma'am, Mr. N.D. Bhatt, Avinash, all of us were traveling for here, and I think, if I'm not wrong, fortunately, all of us, it was our first experience to Kathmandu. And every time, whatever we were trying to experience, it was a first experience for us. It seemed so much like, and while getting into the city and around and meeting people and talking to them, somehow it felt us like a Dehradun,
Like
old Dehradun.
Like home.
However, the tricky part was when I told our fellow Cambrianites, it almost felt like Dehradun, and they said, and they took it other way, right? They said, it's not developed. I said, no, I'm saying it in a nice way. So I know where you're coming from. Sorry, I broke your thoughts, but you were talking about Nepal. You born and brought up in Nepal.
Nepal, yeah. So everybody knows everyone.
Okay.
And we can. And I had heard about at that time Colonel Shamsher. We were going through some changes politically in the country.
Okay.
And he was part of a multi-party system and doing amazing work then. So I'd seen and heard of him, and also some of my friends and people I associated with knew, Rani Saiba as to Mummy, as I call her now, but knew her, and so that was sort of my association with them at the earliest in Nepal.
So sorry. So let's put context. So when you're saying earlier, just put some years. What year are we talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about the 80s.
Early 80s.
Yeah, early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I was a teenager, going to school and in Kathmandu hanging out and doing your normal things. So that was my association basically at the time with them.
Okay.
But I, of course, I got to know my husband well later, and then through him, of course, I was interacting a little bit with my father-in-law to be.
Okay. Okay.
And I really liked his vision and what I would hear of his vision and his work and what he was doing. So there was a resonance there, which of course I got to hear through my friend Krishna at that time. So that was how I knew them. But I got to know, he of course, unfortunately, I think very short but very impactful life that he led.
Yes.
So obviously that legacy and the work that he did every day as I work here and sit in Cambrian Hall, there's not a day that doesn't go by when I'm not reminded of his vision and work. When I see the files he kept, when I see the writings that he's done, when I look at almost anything, he was a legend in a sense. I think the man probably way ahead of his time, if I may say so.
Correct.
A Renaissance man almost, an artist, a writer, a singer,
You
musician.
said artist. Tell us artist. What way?
In the sense of being in a hook. I mean, he really liked music. He played the tabla. He listened to music. He did many things. There was one incident which I've told other teachers and all when people want to know about the founder. Apparently, there was a function in Dehradun, and he was invited with my mother-in-law at the time, and it was a musical evening, that very high level evening, some VIPs were coming, and the tabla player got sick that day and didn't show up. So the organizers were sort of, going to and fro, really concerned. And when my father-in-law asked what had happened, and they said he walked up, volunteered, walked up from his VIP seat, played the tabla all night, much to the shock of his family, who didn't realize that he could do that so well. But encore from the guests, and also, a lot of thanks from the organizers. And he, I think, saved the evening. So that was the sort of man he was.
Wow.
Many, many incidents. He was always there. We get stories every day. Somebody comes to see us, telling us how he changed their life and how it helped them, which we learn as we move along. So there.
In fact, as you said, I can put a lot of parallels. Although I was a very small child when I think he passed away, 87. I think I was in class 4, so we wouldn't have a first-hand interaction, but while during these podcasts that I record, when I have spoken to a lot of teachers, and what I was really amused was that he had these first conversation, you can call them, not really a formal interview, but he would have it anywhere, like under the tree, anywhere while walking, talking. So that also showcases the kind of personality he was, very much similar to what you are saying.
Absolutely. And I think he had a knack of being able to, he was a politician first and foremost, born a son of a Raja. So I guess he knew people, and the relationships. But he was also able to attract and do good with good people, I think. One of our first principals here, Mrs. Mannering, her husband and him were really close colleagues. He was studying at St. Joseph's.
Okay.
My father-in-law, he was the head boy there. And Mr. Mannering, I'm told, was the sports teacher there.
Oh.
And he invited Mannering, and they started talking about this vision of my father-in-law to have a school.
This is early 1950s, I believe.
50s, way ahead, when the family wasn't very supportive of Raja's son running a school or getting involved in school.
Wow.
At that time, that was not the call of the day. He was expected to join the army or do something else. But I believe then he got Mrs. Mannering, and that's how they started the school. And much later, after his parents. I think after his father passed away, and when this property, when his mother also left, then he converted it into a trust and, provided.
Ma'am, while you're saying that, because I'm hearing this for the first time, I would like to know more. What else do you remember was his, you could say, vision or the thought process that made he started Cambrian Hall? Because, of course, I think by that time, Cambrian Hall was becoming kind of a, I think if we're talking about 40s, 50s, independence, just the country has just taken free. So, was starting to get lots of good schools. So, was he little early in knowing this or gauging that this place would be really a good hub for schools?
I think he was a visionary, and he had a dream and a vision which we still try to implement and take it forward. And his vision at that time, given it was in his era, there were schools coming up, but the schools were really for the privileged lot, the really good schools. And he had a vision that he wanted to create an elite institution. Okay, and I mean that a top-notch quality school, but make it accessible to middle-class children, because he thought that change would only come when the masses were educated, and that the way to do it is to make it affordable for people to send their children. And that is what we did, and that is the philosophy that we stick to today as well in Cambrian Hall.
In fact, while you're speaking now, I correlate with, there was another story somebody told us in early 80s or late 70s, that there is a very popular TV star. Her brother was studying in Doon School. And because Cambrian Hall was doing so good and competing with Doon School for everything, in all aspects, they got him admission out from there, from Doon School, to got him to Cambrian Hall and got him into boarding. So I'm sure I now relate with what you're trying to say and what you just said in terms of his vision, etc., etc.
And he chose to go to St. Joseph's as opposed to Doon School. At that time, that choice was there.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that was, I think, his philosophy. And I hear this through my mother. I've heard it through my mother-in-law, and also reading and talking to other colleagues through the years. In the last 30 years. That's all.
Is there any? Now, I'm very interested about the founder. So is there any written material available, either published or just an archive, about our founder?
We are actually, I'm putting something together.
Oh, wow.
It's been a while, but I have been thinking about and trying to find somebody to work with.
Okay.
And I think we'll do a small coffee table book, which sort of documents what his accomplishments were, because there was many, not just in terms of the school life and here, but also his political life and his social life. And
Ma'am, it's going to be a wonderful idea if we can have, and of course, lots of Cambrianite are accomplished writer, and it could be a great collaboration between you and some of them contributing to it.
Absolutely.
Wow. Wow, interesting.
That's what I was thinking of, working with Cambrianites.
Lovely, lovely, beautiful, beautiful. That's lovely. So while we're talking about our founder, Colonel Shamsher, and of course later then it was taken by Rani Chandra Lakshmi. So now as you sit in this position to take that legacy forward, right? What is the thought that you have? I understand, as you just said, it's a lot of responsibility, but how are you in your ways and means of how you're taking forward Cambrian Hall? What's the thought process that you have in terms of that legacy, taking that forward, and of course adding your own bit in terms of taking it forward?
Yeah, I should just add, just sort of with all humility and with some caution, that I'm here, but I'm guided by a lot of people, and the people that are taking it forward and who's giving me guidance to do certain things is the board of Cambrian Hall, which we have, and the president, basically. I'm here in Dehradun because of the president, and I came here to support him because I was working, as you know, and after my mother-in-law passed away and the current president took over the position, we felt that it would be really important to be here together and to help to take the school forward. And in case, I don't know if you know, but the president has been supporting me in my career throughout my life. I've worked in New York, in Africa, in Asia, wherever I went, he was always there, a pillar of strength and support. And including when I was taking care of my mother, who got really ill towards the end of her life. And he was really, he's also another very special man. Okay, very much like his father, but very much like your brother, talks less and doesn't like to, but gets things done. And he's got a personality where he doesn't, his inner feelings are very hard, even for me, having been married to him for so many years, to fully understand, because I think what he projects is sort of the happy-go-lucky, you know, I think they've been raised that way. That
no, I can vouch for that. Krishna sir is so approachable, and always
also,
down to earth.
No, and also very bright.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
you know,
of course.
And, you know, gives me the ideas, and I'm sort of the spokesperson, and I implement it for him. So that's something that I should also say. And then also we discuss and share what we are doing. And his vision, of course, the reason we are here is his vision was also to take the school that his father had built, I mean, very close to him, to think about, you know, how are we not just inheriting a school and building on the past. He always says that the past is really great and good, but let's think about how we're going to influence the future. Where are we going to be? We are just custodians in this story, whether him and me. And our mother-in-law, and the founders started it, but where do we take it, and how do we take it? And ultimately, what do we leave behind in terms of the legacy, and also what do we do for the children and our staff as well? You know, we have amazing people, like we've just talked about Dr. Mr. K.K. Agarwal and, you know, others, and there's so much commitment. But it has involved rocking the boat a little bit for us, you know, in the last 4 or 5 years. Because we were used to doing things in a certain way. We were like, had become like an oil tanker, you know, which you were moving in a certain direction, and you would have survived probably for the next 50 years. You know, but how it would have survived, that's questionable, right? But shifting that oil tanker meant, in a literal sense, like pulling the rug from people's feet. You know? So there was a little bit of disruption. It hasn't been completely a bed of roses, but I think the overall larger objective of thinking about why we are doing this and the difference it'll make to the children who should be at the center of the education, I think that's what's made it happen. And he's very much like his father, in the sense that he goes around, he's all over, all this renovation, the things that you're seeing, the vision and leading the board, that's him basically. So I'm there, and I'm actually here not full time, Sachin, so I should also let you know that. Yeah, I live between Nepal and here, you know, and I come here because of my husband and the work that I do here. But I also work a little bit with civil society organizations like you do in other places. You know? So I divide my time.
So ma'am, while you're talking about the legacy of Cambrian Hall and the vision that you're taking the founders' legacy forward, I'll take you back, because you said you're spending a lot of time in Nepal and you spend there. So tell us the legacy of the royal family in Nepal, and do you have any, and I'm an ignorant because I'm not part of the royal family, but you are. So is there any roles, responsibilities, or anything special that you need to do as your duty kind of a thing? So how is it in terms of the royal family legacy that you have in Nepal?
Yeah, it depends on how you, I'm not royal, and I don't have a royal family legacy, just so that you know. And yes, I grew up in Nepal when Nepal was run under sort of an absolute monarch system. And that was a wonderful, wonderful, I call it the golden era of Nepal, because it was at that time. A lot of safety, security, pride in being a Nepali. There was recognition globally of the country, and a lot of good things were happening. Probably there were gaps with the royal system. You know, there were gaps, mainly in terms of inclusion and probably having more democratic processes in place. And you saw through the 80s and 90s sort of, you know, a quiet simmering of that disquiet, where you saw a Maoist movement. But the royal family, I think even today, I mean, there is I guess, a belief in people that the king and the monarchy can unite the people, bring people together. There's fundamental respect. And Nepal, being a Hindu kingdom, as you know, sees the king, the monarch, as avatar of Vishnu. So, you know, in that sense, you know, it's a really important unifying factor. And I still believe that there is a role for that, a constitutional monarch maybe, but with all the changes that the country is going through, And we are, you've seen you've heard about the recent issues that are happening.
Yeah.
So everybody's waiting for the new elections and how it's going to unfold. Now, in terms of the royal family specifically, the Rana family, which is what I married into.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, I was very privileged to be married to Shahi Shamsher's family, where he himself was a very progressive man and inclusive. And yes, there were certain certain obligations that one fulfills, but nothing more or nothing less than any other happy, good, functioning, well-functioning families. So that's how we were raised. But with certain, there were boundaries in terms of what we could do and couldn't do. And I tried to respect that, and I think the family did that too. But nothing major in terms of,
But I would like to dwell more, because I live in UK and we hear a lot of stories about the royal family over there and what you can do, what you cannot do, kind of a thing. And of course, we hear lots of stories from the media. But let's talk about your family. Was there anything, as in, for example, a normal person doing, like you could do and you could not do, that you remember, that you thought, I wish I could have just done it, but I have to just follow? Anything on a day-to-day life? I'm just saying, from a day-to-day life kind of thing.
One of the things, of course, when I got married, I was living in New York, and then I moved to Delhi. My mother was not well, as I told you, and my mother-in-law was very particular that I dress in salwar, kurtas or saris.
Okay.
Right? That was the norm.
Okay.
So it often meant that I would be in a meeting with the UN somewhere and in my suit and pants and whatever. And because she was coming home, or she happened to be home, and I would have to quickly change into my kurtas and run home. So that happened for years.
Okay.
And,
switch between the real world and the royal world.
Exactly. And my family world, I don't know if it's royal. My world, the family, my mother, what was important for my mother-in-law in terms of, her worldview. So did that. But I think with time, then things changed also, because, she had a daughter who also grew up and who also had to adjust to a different environment outside. And my daughters were growing up. And so one day she said to me, don't worry, you can wear what you want as long as it's decent, modest, and, what have you. But that was something that impacted my life for a short while. Nothing major, nothing that I couldn't cope with.
Okay.
But things like that. But at a more fundamental level, I was very blessed to be part of a very progressive family, and a mother-in-law who was also, I think, influenced probably by my father-in-law, who was ahead of her time, and gave a lot of space and a lot of support for the women in the house to be who they should be and were capable of being, and also supporting the men in the house.
Okay. And excuse me for this, I'm just going back and forth because this is the bit which I think a lot of people would like to know, which is why I'm going back to the family in Nepal and coming back to you. Okay, so tell us your first ever visit to this campus, Cambrian Hall. First ever visit that you remember.
I think came here to Dehradun to get married. And,
oh wow!
Yeah, and it was I got married.
So let's put a year. Let's put context.
I think 93 or so.
93.
Yeah, and I got married, and this was the first time I came to Cambrian Hall, and I got married here in this beautiful.
So oh wow! Yeah, wow, 93. So I was in class 9.
You in class 9. I was working in the US, and I came over my holidays to.
Okay. So wedding, actually, reception, everything happened here.
Yeah, happened. Part of it. The reception happened here.
Okay.
Parts of the wedding happened here, and parts happened in Guru Road.
Where we residence, lived.
And then parts happened in the hotel where my family stayed. But I don't recall too much. That whole period was like a dream. I came, everything was done for me, and then I had to leave.
Okay. Was that your first visit to Dehradun as well?
No, I've come to Dehradun many times earlier, and I had passed by Cambrian Hall outside, but never had the reason to come into Cambrian Hall.
So your first experience was very overwhelming because it was a marriage and all those functions and events and all that. Okay, so in normal day-to-day life, because that's a once in a lifetime kind of a overwhelming event that happened in your life. But apart from that, just leave that aside. So let me go back there only. Do you remember any teachers or anybody who is still around these days who would have attended your wedding? Anybody?
Yes, all the teachers at the time attended the wedding, and I think Rita, our coordinators for junior school, the senior school, there were a lot of teachers. I mean, almost every teacher, Benita, almost everyone who's teaching here. I think among the older teachers, as well as those who've left us, they're in Dehradun. They all remember the wedding fondly.
Okay. Let's come back to your visit, which is outside this great event that happened in your life, apart from your marriage. When was that, and how was your?
Then after I got married, then whenever I came to Dehradun, I would be living in Guru Road with the family. But I came with my mother-in-law. She would visit here with Mr. Singhal, and we would come, and he would guide us.
So these would be like any school events.
Most of the events, but other things as well. She would come to visit him, or we would come. She would go to the school, and somebody would accompany her. And if I was around, I would come with her, or my husband, or came regularly and sort of talked with the principal, and talked with some of your teachers, and talked with some of the children, and so that relationship was fostered for probably the past 3-4 decades.
So what was your initial reaction, your first memory? What did you feel about the institute? I'm thinking about them because when you were not in the thick and things of, you were just coming there just to accompany and just grasping everything. What was your feeling? What was your experience like?
Oh, I just felt overwhelmed and really privileged to be part of this family and the community at Cambrian Hall and what the school was doing. I was working with the UN in Delhi, and I'd often be in government meetings or in army get-togethers where somebody would walk up to me and say,
I'm a Cambrianite.
I'm a Cambrianite. or we hear that, you are so-and-so's daughter-in-law, you're part of it, and how much they respected Cambrian Hall. Many people who knew my father-in-law, the visionary, many students here. So that's how, I met a lot of ex-students from here. And everywhere, almost everywhere, in government, in the military, among writers, just, lawyers, just almost, accountants, you name it, doctors, professionals, they were all over between Dehradun here. And, you put me in touch even with people in New York. I mean, that was amazing. So, yes, very, very privileged to be part of this community.
Okay. Ma'am, let's hear, I understand that you had a very, very active professional life outside Cambrian Hall, as in before you actively got involved in the school functioning. But tell us a bit about that life outside the Cambrian Hall. You had a very active professional life. Tell us more about that, please.
So I think I should start off with my family. I come from a mixed family, and where my mother and my family, we were brought up sort of respecting differences and seeing beauty in the different, that, relationships where you don't focus on differences, but you focus on what binds you together, the values, the norms, humanity, and also a sense of service. There was, it was very, my mother, I remember when I was in school, when all my friends would be partying and going out.
When you said school, this is Kathmandu?
I was in Kathmandu, and also I studied in a place in Kalimpong for a bit. A lot of Nepalis, we went there to study. And we'd come back for our winter breaks or whatever.
Tell us name of your school.
St. Joseph's Convent. I was in a convent. But when I came back home from wherever, many children would be having a good time partying. My mother would send me off to volunteer somewhere because, I would be, my English was fairly good then. So she would say, there are a lot of less privileged people. So go and teach, help with English, or help with the Women's Association, or help with refugees. There was a lot of refugees coming. So she introduced not just me, but I think my whole family to those values. Which with time, what happened was they didn't become just theoretical values, but we learned to live that life. So then going back to my career, I mean, then there was a natural progression. I had worked with I'd seen a lot of battered women in Nepal and communities marginalized and worked with them. And somewhere in my system, I knew I wanted to make a difference. Now, how I would do that, I had no idea. And then when I finished college and things like that, and when I was looking for opportunities, the opportunity came up in the UN.
Sorry. Going back to college. So college, Kathmandu, India, Which
all
country?
over,
Okay,
you know, yeah,
okay,
all over,
okay,
and
okay.
then in the US.
Okay.
And yeah, and then I sort of, when I started working in the UN, initially I was a bit skeptical. My mother, I thought I'd come back home. And
So sorry, so you took up a job in US?
In the US, yeah.
And with the United Nations?
But I got through. I mean, it was a very competitive exam.
Of course.
I got through.
Yeah.
And initially, I thought it was going to be for a year or two, and then I was going to come back home because there was a lot of pressure from my family to be back home. And I was also a little skeptical because when you're on the outside, you hear about the bureaucracy and you hear about, you know, is it really making a difference? But when you're in the system, I realized, you know, that I was so privileged again to be working for the UN. Where do you get to work for an organization whose indicator of success is to construct a better world? I mean, you know, you have so much opportunities to make a difference. You're working for people, the marginalized communities, you know. So I felt there was a natural fit, and of course I worked with the UN.
Because UN is such a big umbrella organization, which part of UN or which organization of UN were you part of?
See, I should just tell you, Sachin, that I worked with, did a lot of little things. Oxfam, you know, has many chapters. There's USA, and that's an NGO.
Okay.
I worked with Georgetown University, you know, it's a think tank. I worked with the World Bank, which is, you know, a bank. And then I worked with the UN and got posted to Bhutan and many other places. So within the UN, I worked with a different agency called the United Nations Development Program. Yeah, it's a central agency that deals with social and economic issues and works very closely with governments. You know. So that's what I did. And yeah, and then I went, several jobs, but later on, I mean, I grew in the organization. And I guess in the last, before I left the UN, I held several, I guess, senior positions, if I may say so. So one of the things was also being a country representative. So when you asked me what did I do, I was part of the country rep for UNDP, but also the SGs, the Secretary General Special Representatives in the country. You know, so you coordinate the UN agencies, all of them. So that is what I did. And plus, I was a director at the regional level promoting gender issues, anti-trafficking, HIV, poverty, gender. Lots of work, lots of projects. My last job was in Delhi. I asked for a posting in Delhi, and I came to Delhi to be closer to the family. And there I was head of an agency called the United Nations OPS, Office of Project Services. And basically implementing large-scale programs funded by the government of India, government of the region, governments from the region, as well as the United Nations related to disaster prevention, health, education, and many others, you know, so there was a natural convergence to what I'm doing today. That work was more at the macro level, policy and leading teams to implement.
Country point of
view. And here, I'm doing more micro level work, being out there and just, you know, seeing what's happening on the ground. So that's the difference.
Okay, wow. So you did mention very briefly, quickly about Bhutan. So how was the experience in Bhutan? What year are we talking about?
I was in Bhutan in the late 80s.
Late 80s?
Yeah, that was my first job. And I finished college and I was fresh and new and I loved Bhutan. You know,
I hear wonderful stories about Bhutan, a beautiful country, very nature friendly now. Earlier it wasn't at some point of time, but I think somebody had the great vision. And I think the Nepal king, and I think now it's one of the sought after places to visit. Okay, so tell us,
I loved Bhutan, living there, and you know, I went to school, as I told you, in Kalimpong, and we had lots of students from Bhutan, Nepal, all the mountain kingdoms, you know, would congregate there. So I had friends there, but more than the friends, I really liked what Bhutan was trying to do. It was in the early phases of development there as well, and there was a real earnest sort of and meaningful contribution from senior management, the government leaders, and including the king himself, who, you know, we would hear he lived in a log cabin, very committed to the development of the country. And, you know, corruption was non-existent in the sense I knew. Beautiful. And what Bhutan did was learn from the mistakes that Nepal made. So in a way, it was very interesting to be there and to experience their development and growth.
Very interesting. So you said? learn from the mistakes that Nepal did. And you know, whenever I talk to Bhutan, and I think a lot of people, unfortunately, I've not managed to visit. I managed to ensure my mom visits. She did a travel, and she just keeps talking about the time that she spent. One of the most responsible tourism, if you can call it. And I feel it's a great template for a lot of countries. So how to look at tourism. And I relate with what you're saying. So I like what you just said, that they learn from the mistakes of Nepal.
Yeah, the tourism policy was quite special. They decided at some point that they didn't want a lot of tourists coming in. And not only on the influence on the young people in Bhutan, but also on the environment. And so they kept the price tag very high. And so they limited the number of tourists that could come into the country. I guess it has its plus points and minus points. The good thing about budget travelers is that they spread the money out. No? They also reach out to the people who need the funds.
Correct.
Whereas the premium paying tourists go to the premium paying hotels and you benefit. So I mean, there is two sides.
Of course, 100%.
It was managed very well and done very well. And I think it was, the king also focuses very much on something called gross national happiness, which I just find,
gross national.
Yeah, we talk about gross national development, GDP. And
that was about happiness.
Yeah, and they focus not just on products and outputs.
But how do you measure that? It's a very relative thing, right?
Yeah, they've developed really good indicators. You know, UNDP as well. We came up with something called the Human Development Index, right? Looking not just, how do you measure human progress? One is, of course, the economic side of things, but the other is to look at longevity, to look at health, access to education, the quality of your life, and developing indicators to measure qualitative aspects is quite difficult, but it has been done. And Bhutan, I think, took it a step further by talking about gross national happiness, where people being content, you go to bed with your heart full and your conscience clear. There's nothing like that to measure success, right? And I think they're working very hard to create a society where everybody's included, to create a society where they can keep people. That is, of course, becoming a big challenge today, I'm told.
Correct.
When I was there, it was an idyllic time. Right now, I think Bhutan also is facing its challenges of brain drain and, the usual that countries are going through, all countries go through. But nonetheless, I think you still have a very dynamic leader in His Majesty, the current king, with his heart in the right place and with a very bright head. So I think the countries will move forward. So I'm a big fan, as you can see.
Okay. So, tell us so that's United Nations. So your first, tell us the period around the time where you actively got involved in Cambrian Hall professionally.
Yeah, Cambrian Hall, I think when I moved to India, basically, and I started, as I told you, informally, formally through the family, coming here, getting acquainted, understanding some of the issues, having dialogues, discussing, and making my 2 bits of contribution in whichever way I could at that time. So that was happening. But the real formal time of actually moving to Dehradun fully, even though we had a home here, but moving here and taking my daughter out of school from Delhi and positioning her here.
So she also studied in Cambrian Hall?
No, she's living here. She's studying in Convent of Jesus and Mary. And the reason being that, we didn't want to raise a privileged child.
Of course.
That was
fair enough, fair point.
But then we also wanted her to be grounded, so we put her in CGM. But she came from Basan Valley, which was another school in Delhi. So to have her grounded. But when we finally, the family moved here was after my mother-in-law passed away, because for the past 3 years before that she had cancer and was not well. So I think my husband and me, we spent a lot of time in Delhi basically taking care of her. She passed away in my arms basically. She died with me together. So that was a very difficult time for the family. And the whole family that she held together, pulled it together in spite of challenges, sort of, the cracks began to show, I think, after her death. And following that, my husband needed support, so then a time came when I had to say, okay, now I have to be there for him because, as I told you earlier, he'd been a big support to me throughout. So I then took time off from, initially I took leave without pay. And then
What year are we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about, 2018, I think.
2018,
Yeah, when she died.
So that was around the time that you were...
Just pre-COVID, yeah. And that's when I took... Yeah, just when she was not well, and then she passed away in 2018. And then initial 2 years was of course sort of slow with COVID and everything else, and then I took off and left the organization. So I've been actively engaged here from, I guess from 2019 onwards. But 22, 23 would be when we started actually working, and you know, otherwise the school was looked after, taken very good care of by Dr. Biala, who was the principal there. And I said, we've been blessed to have very strong teams running the school.
Okay, so my obvious question is that you moved from United Nations, although you said a lot of your learnings, which is very natural, you bring from the United Nations Association and your relationship with that organization all across the world. And so how was your transition? Now, of course, I understand that's very macro, this is very micro. Also because the family is involved, you know, so there is that added pressure. So how was the transition?
It's been a huge learning experience for me, you know, the transition at all levels, but in a positive way. It's like a small fire that's sort of burning, but it's getting stronger each day, and I'm becoming more resilient and able to cope with many things, both positive and the challenges. But I mean, in a larger sense, it was actually quite seamless, because I had worked a lot on the education sector. I used to be heads of boards of schools that the UN ran also, plus other schools. So I've had, you know, in Nepal there were schools where I was board member. So I've had that experience, plus I've been always, I've worked in the social sectors, and social sector education was an important part, where I was always trying to convince governments to invest more in the education sector. And I've been also reading up and following up on the NEP, the National Education Policy of India, plus policies across the region, because it was part of the UN's mandate, you know, to promote initially what we call the Millennium Development Goals, and later the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's very much part and parcel of that agenda, where the country makes commitments to meet those goals, and India had made certain commitments. And these schools that you see around and the work that's happening in the country is part of that whole agenda. So in a way, it was fairly seamless. And also the work itself, you know, is really focuses on making a difference, right? On working with teams, towards a larger public good. Basically, you're talking about creating citizens that are responsible, children that are resilient, promoting compassion, promoting, you know, social responsibility, all those things at the ground level, and seeing that in action, and which is what the UN is also doing at a larger level. So I think there was that convergence, and that was good. But the team was very different. You know, in the UN, you're dealing with, you know, you have access to the best minds globally, the best data globally.
I was actually coming to that. That's more corporate, I would say. Maybe not the right phrase, but like very corporate, very structured, etc. Here it was very different.
Here you're hands-on, you know, you just have to be there. And a lot of the ideas that you're bringing also are sort of, at the time, I think in the last 2-3 years, we've managed, but as I told you, we're bringing some shifts here, changes here, just preparing our school to be future ready, the children to be future ready, right? The world was shifting. You know, I often talk about Kodak, you know. Remember how successful Kodak was, and it was leading the market, 85% of the shares they had. And then because they were not able to shift and do what was necessary, take some hard decisions, you know, you
see what happened to Nokia?
Exactly.
The best phone.
So this
they couldn't adapt to the technology of the smartphones.
Exactly. So likewise, I felt in this school that we've had the best times. It's had these real highs, but a time was coming where you needed to build on those highs to take it to future. To take it to a future where they would also succeed.
To greater heights.
Yeah, to greater heights. Absolutely, absolutely. To future heights. I was going to say that to greater heights is even better. Yeah. So that is what is happening. So I think we're still thinking about that. You know, technology. We've introduced a lot of new things here. For example, you know, technology. I mean, it's absolutely essential, right, today.
The question was that they said it won't work. You know, my first meeting in a regional office, I was based out of Mumbai, so I had to come for these regional meetings, and these are regional offices. He had over 20-30 years of experience, and we are sitting in an office. You know, I said, okay, questions please. So I was asked, how many days do you think you can survive here?
Wow.
And another question was how much power do you have, or kind of what can you do kind of thing. So I said for you, and I feel very proud the answer that I gave. I don't think how it came to my head. I said, for now, only for you, your buck stops at me.
Absolutely, good for you.
From a very structured, disciplined sector, here, of course, fortunately for me, I did not have this, because here the other added pressure is the family. It's also your personal. It is also that you have to think about the baton has been passed on to me now. So I have to be very careful. So that, fortunately, unfortunately, I've not had that I've had, because that's an extra pressure which you can't explain in words. It is a pressure that you just have it, right? Nobody's telling you, but you have it in your head.
That's
kind
true.
of a thing.
That is true. And especially when there's a disconnect within the family as well.
100%, 100%.
And instead of focusing on what you're supposed to do, you end up focusing on a lot of other things, which for me has been a whole new area. I've never had to deal with that at any level.
But in any of your previous experience, has transitioning being part of your project or experience?
Yes, lots. I mean, I've worked in different regions, different countries, different.
You're trying to put a policy and people are not resistant to it, kind of a thing. You've had
huge in the UN. I mean, you have to do so much networking. Anything that you put up, if India says something, Pakistan will say no. No, I mean, come on. So you deal with a lot of, you deal with, in the UN, I think it's a good place to learn how to build coalitions.
Within conflicting views.
Yeah, how to sort of respect differences, bring about, common issues to the table so that people can park their differences and all that. So in that sense, I think it's a very good lesson.
So ma'am, we were talking about the transition, right? So, okay, so I'll take you back again now to Nepal. Okay. Let's talk about your early days of Nepal, your growing up, and how's life different than what it was? I'm saying from a childhood point of view, and now living in, because this is now the life that you're living in Dehradun. How's the difference? And tell us a bit about your childhood as well. Although you did tell us about your mom and how you took up a lot of volunteer work, etc. But tell us your childhood days.
I had a very normal childhood, like any other family. As I told you, I'm a child of mixed parentage. My mother is Tibetan and my father is Nepali. So I grew up in a very traditional household, basically, and so childhood was normal, and I grew up in a very beautiful country as well. I mean, Nepal at that time was really peaceful. When I left Nepal and went to study, or when I would come to India, it wasn't Dehradun, somewhere else. When I would look around, what I missed was the mountains. Growing up, we could just walk into any part of Kathmandu and see the mountains. It was almost like something was protecting us, and we were wrapped around the mountains. Today, unfortunately, it's very hard to see the mountains unless you take a mountain flight. And
that will also get cancelled at times because of the weather.
Exactly.
It happened to us. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I don't know what time we were awake, and we were all ready at the airport, just ready to take a flight, and then we got, sorry, because of the bad weather. And we felt so, okay, please, sorry, carry on.
And also when you're flying in, you get a good view if you're lucky on a good day, if it's a day like this. So, that it was just an idyllic time, with good friends and good memories. So growing up, it was normal like any other place. But today when I go back, and I'm here in Dehradun, and it just feels really good to be in Dehradun. And whenever I come here, it's sort of respite for me as well. Because Kathmandu, I do maintain a home there, and I go there. But when I do go...
Sorry, you're talking about Kathmandu. Do you have a mahal? Do you have a palace?
We did. My my husband's family had one, and I think because my father-in-law joined the opposition and the multi-party system, that house, which is called Shashi Bhawan, Shashi Shamsher, Colonel Shashi, our founder, that house has become the residence of the chief of the army of Nepal. So we got invited to the house for dinners and lunches when my mother-in-law was alive, and several of our army chiefs were also relatives. So that is there. But no, we have a comfortable place, but a separate place.
Replica of a palace.
No replica of a palace, but yeah, we're not living in a, but we're living in a very comfortable, nice house.
Okay,
there.
I'll go back again to my experience when we were in Kathmandu. So we were looking at hotels, which hotels to say, somebody said to look at Hyatt and XYZ or these corporate hotels and stuff. But we, and of course Shabnam ma'am was the one who decided, well, let's pick up something very traditional. So we actually stayed in a palace, converted into a hotel.
Yeah.
So it just gave a great view. Also the architecture is very old. So lots of things that you couldn't do otherwise over there, but it was just beautiful. What is it called? I forgot. There's this, what is it, palace called? I forgot the name of the palace. I think it's very popular over there. Lots of weddings happen now there.
Yakinyati, no.
No,
that's in the center. You know, Nepal is full of like really beautiful architecture. I mean, it really, today, you know, when you come back to the, it breaks my heart when I go back and see that a lot of our old buildings, the architecture is being destroyed. We had the Malla dynasties, several dynasties that through the years, you have some amazing, amazing spaces and architecture. I think the world used to come there to take photos, I remember. But yeah, and many exist and many have been converted because tourism was one of the main source of revenue. They have been converted. Nice places.
I'm taking you back to the childhood. So when you were growing up, you said everything was very normal, very typical. So as a kid, what did you think about yourself? What will you become? Anything that you had in mind as a child? As you dream professionally?
Yeah, no, when I was very young, I didn't have any dream except my parents thought I should be a doctor like every other child. So you're studying science and, you know, you're doing that biology and all. And I hated biology because dissecting cockroaches and all that. So we went through that route. But as I grew up and after I finished school, I met with some friends who were into fashion and making nice clothes out of Banarasi silk and things like that. So I got involved a little bit in sort of, you know, that kind of work, just being an entrepreneur, which I enjoyed. But then I always had a passion, as I told you, to my passion was to work with refugees. That was what I felt, you know, that really that there were more people needed to work with refugees and, you know, migrant workers. Even at that time, there were people from Afghanistan, there were people from Tibet, there were people from, you know, Myanmar, you know, trickling in small bits and pieces, which I got exposed to in Asia. And when I was in the US studying there, I met with a lot of Vietnamese refugees and people from East Asia. And I used to volunteer and, you know, be a guide to them when new immigrants and new refugees came into the city. I would go once or twice to help them with the language, to help them to settle in, to take them shopping, you know. And what was amazing was all of them loved Hindi movies.
Is it?
So yes, even though they didn't understand a word of it. So my you know, time would be passed well by introducing them to some nice Hindi film and watching it, and then you know, breaking the ice. That was Vietnamese. And
your favorite Hindi movie? Let's talk about that, because you had to which means that you followed a lot of Hindi movies.
I love Hindi movies.
Anyone that is your go-to movie? Let's hear your go-to movie whenever you're feeling okay. Let's watch some movie. Anything that you can watch at any time.
I don't recall offhand, but there are lots right now.
Just say anything. Any from.
I liked this movie with Alia Bhatt and Ranbir recently. What was it called?
Brahmastra?
Yeah, that was nice too. And Bahubali was good, you know. But no, I liked the other one where Rocky and Rani ka kahani or whatever. My Hindi is very bad. Like the Vietnamese. We all watch it for fun.
Rocky or Rani ki prem kahani.
I thought it was good, done in a very entertaining way, but there was a lot of social messaging about gender, about many issues. And that many others. I mean, you know.
Does Krishna sir also has
he doesn't like Hindi movies.
Oh wow!
No. He's hardcore. You know, he likes good sort of Western films.
Which is why I also see a lot of difference or very different personalities, both of you.
Right.
And I think maybe the interest as well comes. Okay, let's come back to. So you said childhood, and so as you said that this is what you want to become. Would you give that reasoning or logical reasoning to the volunteer program you did, whereas with child, with your mom encouraged you to do?
Absolutely. I think it really makes a difference in terms of, you know, the environment that you grow up in and the socializing and issues that you get exposed to, and that obviously had an impact on me. And then when I started looking around, I looked around for those opportunities, you know. Yes.
And coming back to Dehradun, I really liked your definition of the mountains are protecting. So when you come back, of course, you see mountains here, Masuri.
No, Dehradun was, I told you, seamless. You know, when I come, I'm completely at home here. I live in this area, the Gari Cant, where I go, I get to speak Nepali. Garhwalis, I find it, you know, it's so similar to Nepalis, our culture, our customs.
I'm a Garhwali.
Oh, you're a Garhwali? Okay. Yeah, and even Himachalis.
Yes.
There is something about
the Pahadi log, very, I think, similar way of living their life, language.
Exactly. So I couldn't have been anywhere else, and I was fortunate. And I think because it was Dehradun, it was easy for me to come here. And then also to love what you're doing, that's a huge privilege, right? So I didn't plan this, by the way. So it just happened, you know.
Okay. Okay, now since you have been part of the Cambrian Hall family for decades now, the initial part, because you were professionally involved elsewhere with United Nations, but now you have an active role with the entire team, and you're part of the team now. So between that time and now, then and now, how do you see the difference? Because at that point in time, you were just, could be like watching it, consuming it, seeing it. Now you have an active. So how do you see the difference then and now?
In terms of my engagement, of course, there's a difference, because then I was sort of...
Okay, sorry, let me rephrase my question. Cambrian Hall as a family, Cambrian Hall as an organization, Cambrian Hall as an institute, then and now, how do you see it? So let's say if you're asked from a third perspective, so how do you see then and now?
I think the then would be that Cambrian Hall was a very well-respected legacy school, started by a great visionary, as we talked about, a dream to sort of provide education to many children, and it did that. And it was very, very, I think the call of the time, whatever was the imperatives of that time was to provide high quality education, basically. The focus was academics. The focus was getting our children to come out with flying colors academically and to become doctors, nurses, join the army, what have you, to become professionals. So that was the call, and I think it did that. I mean, you're a living example. We have many students here who've come out with flying colors, who've done really well in life and who've landed with their feet on the ground. And we're continuing to do that. Obviously, that part of the agenda doesn't change. But what was lacking, I think, then is to right now think about what is required today and where the gaps were. Not lacking, but where the gaps are, is really to think about the future now. You know, what do we are reading today? I mean, I know what the experts are telling us. They're telling us that almost 65% of the jobs that exist today will not exist 10 years from now.
Yeah.
What are the skills that our children need? What are the skills that people need to succeed, to make a contribution and to survive with their feet on the ground, you know? So those are the fundamental questions we as a school, we have to ask. And then with that comes some changes. So we've placed a lot of premium on extracurricular as well, the sports, the arts, you know, languages, critical thinking, problem solving issues, not just sort of passing your grades and becoming a 99% top or whatever, but on those areas and guiding it all, what we've done, I think, which makes Cambrian Hall really special, and we're not just saying it and we're not just encouraging it, we're doing it, is the values and the ethics. We brought ethics into the classroom, through something called the Social, Emotional and Ethical Learning, the C program that we've introduced, where it's part of the curriculum, where children are taught, today, in today's day and time, with technology and with this instant gratification culture, we're getting children to think a little bit more beyond that, to sort of look at what the choices they're making, to see what contributions they're doing to society. How do you control your own emotions, where's the empathy, where's the compassion, where's the social responsibility, and also looking at our community service in a different way, not just as something that you have to fill a tick and do, but just more meaningfully, what is it that you really want to do, and what is a public good, so do you want to be part of that? So what are the skills that our children need? And it seems to be, from what the experts are telling us is critical thinking, higher order thinking, the human aspects of it, because data and the kind of knowledge that we valued in the past, that'll be available on everybody's fingertips. You're seeing, driverless cars, you're seeing tomorrow you might have classrooms with no teachers. But where do the children fit in? So how do we stay relevant? Education is still the call of the day. How do you bring children back to reading, for example? Because without that basic skill, they'll get left behind. I mean, you're not able to follow many things. So it's juxtaposing some of the old traditional knowledge hubs and needs like reading with today's call for technology and bringing our children up to date, because it's here to stay. So how do we manage that? So that's the difference.
Ma'am, very interesting thought, and I want to dwell and ask you more on that, because the interesting part was when I was just having a podcast recently with somebody who grew up in Cambrian Hall in the 70s, late 70s and early 80s when he passed out. And he said at that point of time, there was a lot of importance given to ethics. And I'm talking about 70s and 80s, right? This is a very different era that we're talking about. Now you bring that, again, an aspect of A, the ethics, and B, the community support or community contributing something to the community. So can you tell us anything specific in these two aspects that the school has part of their curriculum for the kids? Any classes, any curriculum that we have?
Yeah, we have a curriculum which is called the C Learning.
Okay.
Which is the social, emotional learning and ethical issues.
Okay.
And it's actually a subject. And there is a curriculum that's been developed globally, basically. And
what classes to from?
We are starting it from KG right to 12.
Oh,
in
wow.
a different way.
Okay.
So it's, it's replaced your old sort of moral science and character development.
So is that, because this is very fascinating and very interesting, because lots of Cambrianites from this very senior batches have told me lots of stories about it, and I think in fact there was a program called Duke of Edinburgh, which was about the so I want to know more about that. So is there just a book knowledge, or is there anything practical also part of it, if you would?
Yeah, no, it is, I mean, it is I wouldn't call it book knowledge. C is more than just a book knowledge. C is about being, basically. You can't just study it.
Correct.
You have to demonstrate those values. You have to learn to control your emotions. First and foremost is the emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
Because we know globally, right? So there are techniques, there are strategies that we're training our teachers.
Okay.
We've started, it was very new for them. They hadn't heard of C in the last 2, 3, 4 years. And now, we're doing regular trainings, and all of them introduce. It's about allowing the child the space to speak, to connect, and to bring like-minded people together, right? That through that C space. But more than that, we're also connecting it with social service. So many of our children went and did community service with old age homes and with less privileged.
I've seen in few of their digital platforms. Okay, interesting.
But we are trying this year when the 26th curriculum that we wanted to make it a continuous process.
Very good.
With a few children going, but going regularly and identifying different places. And also within the school, we've established clubs that do some of the thinking, including sort of an environmental club, social club. And we've asked all the teachers to stay an extra hour. When the bell rings earlier, everybody ran out, right? Now the children will be let go, and the teachers all stay behind an extra hour to think through these issues and to see what the learning has been and how to take these processes forward. So that's happening.
This is very interesting. Something that I wasn't aware of. In fact, when I did see, when I was just maybe browsing internet, I saw it in one of the platforms of social media that they had done a visit. So I was very curious to know that I've not seen it in the last few years. So very good, very nice, very interesting, ma'am. Okay. Some of the things that I can say on behalf of the Cambrian Hall alumni community, that the community is now very active for the last over a decade, I think, over almost 15 years, and now formally as well, that we have seen some visible difference, especially in the last few years. And of course, the team who is looking after all of that, the entire organization, is responsible for that. So I have to say that and congratulate you while you are seated here. But this is on behalf of the entire community. So we see that very conscious efforts are being, and now when you're telling us behind the scene these are things happening, I can relate with lots of those things. So while I say that, and lots of my Cambrianite alumni come and share these feedback, I would like to know from you and the team, because you're representing a lot of other people in the Cambrian Hall as a organization that's been run. What is your relationship with the alumni as such? And what do you feel in the last few years?
I think one of the strategies basically, and one essential, it's beyond a strategy, is one's essential element of being a Cambrianite is partnerships basically. You know, we are very aware as Cambrian Hall that, you know, nothing happens alone. And that even within the school, collaboration, teamwork is given premium attention. And then working with partners. So the Cambrianites, all our students who passed away from the school, who have a special memory, special association, we see you as very, very valued assets. I don't want to call you that, but you're such an important part of the agenda. You know, you are the stories that you know that live about Cambrian Hall's history and the past and what it's accomplished. You know, and its challenges as well. You know, so you represent that.
Course.
And we've also really, really appreciated the support that we've gotten from the Cambrian Hall team. You know, in many levels, I'm talking about from sponsoring children here, helping our qualified kids, you know, things that we share with you, the shared values of, you know, being there for children who are both merit-based and needs-based, you know, and there's so much that the school can do. So any additional support is welcome, and you've been always forthcoming, not just you as a team, but individually too. All the Cambrianites have been very, very forthcoming. And also, you know, you've made many things possible, and this relationship, I hope it'll go from strength to strength. And that is an important relationship, the partnership, and it's prime. We also have partnerships with, we are trying, when I talk about the C learning, going back to the values, is that we partnered with an organization, other organizations, and another one called Festology, which is a Geneva-based, UK-based, you know, organization that has been facilitating and promoting the heads, heart, and hand. Head, heart, and hand.
Okay.
Yeah, so you need academic and support for the children. The heart is so important, because when the heart is in the right place, that's where the emotions, the contributions, the, you know, everything happens. It's so important that you think from there. And hands is the life skills, you know, that you need to survive, and you can relate it from the traditional when it started, to vocational training and technical skills, to today's skills of just financial literacy, a lot of things that schools don't teach, but children need to survive. So we're learning from that, and also building that those elements into our curriculum, which you asked me, how are you making it happen? So that those are things that are happening. And C learning itself is supported by, you know, it was started off with the Dalai Lama, Desmond Tutu, Harvard University, about I think 30 of Daniel Goleman, 30, 40 years of research, Government of India, everyone got involved, looking at the old ways. And there's a lot of methodologies that come about, that has come about. And technical support was being provided by a foundation that was helping schools to implement this, and many schools have taken it on, the more progressive schools. And I think in Dehradun we are one of the schools that have taken it on. So there's a lot of partnership and a lot of support that we're getting, and hopefully giving back the learning as well, you know. But yes, you are our prime driver. You have to sit there and make things happen as well, and work with us.
Thank you. Okay, ma'am, since we were talking about then and now, we spoke about then and now, I would like to also take you to the future, right? Okay. So we are in 2026, 71 years of Cambrian Hall. So where do you, so the easier bit, where do you see the journey of Cambrian Hall in the next few decades? And the trickiest question, let me put this in spot. Cambrian Hall at 2054, where do you see it? When we are celebrating 100 years. I hope I'm alive.
Yes, that's exactly.
Okay.
I think.
So future, let's take future. What you have in mind?
Yeah, the vision of Cambrian Hall for the future, and both in near future and long term, and the big picture would be a center of excellence for learning and knowledge, you know, almost like a Gurukul. Things would evolve. We don't know what's going to happen then. But I think technology, of course, would...
I like the way you said Gurukul. Wow.
You know, it's basically a hub for knowledge and a hub for allowing citizens, children to come together, get together, meet, learn, grow, and contribute to society. That's how I see it. Now, I don't have enough sort of, details on that, but it will evolve. But in the short run, in the next few years or the next decade or so, we really want to produce children who will be good citizens, the leadership role that they'll be able to take, citizens who are responsible, resilient, who are emotionally stable. And that is the sort of and who are able to take on the challenges of a changing world, who are agile, who are able to adapt. That's sort of our vision right now. So what we are working towards is to cater to those needs. And that's why you'll see the changes in the school, whether I'm talking about the three-pronged approach, very much the academic part remaining and evolving, but also complementing it, that would be sort of the social and emotional and physical well-being of children, mental well-being, because that's also a big issue with technology taking over and children, becoming more insular. So how do we deal with that? And the knowledge base. And of course, the compass that guides us would be the C-learning, the values, the morality, the issues that we talked about.
So you talk about overall 360-degree development of a child into becoming an adult.
Yeah, that's what we're working towards. It's easier said than done, it's really a grind, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward. And even in terms of, I've had teachers who've told me, we're doing C-learning, maybe a very technical teacher. Teachers have told me, come back to me and said, ma'am, it's really great that we're doing this, but then, I'm not equipped to deal with many things that unfold when you allow a child to speak up. It could be an emotional issue, it could be a home issue, and, how do we deal with that? And we do expect teachers to at least have the basic knowledge so that they can refer the child to somebody if a child needs help. And those skills are so important. I think even if you're, let's say, a physics teacher or a maths teacher,
Correct.
You have to be able to see the human side beyond the thing. So those sort of feedback was really gratifying, that I'm trying to do that now. I'm keeping an eye, and we are looking at children in a different way. I think that is where we see ourselves going and where we should go. And we've also hired counselors, which we didn't have in the past.
Okay, tell us more about the counselors. What do they do? What's their role?
Well, one of our Dean of Academics, I don't know if you've met this lady called Annie.
Yes, I've met her.
Yeah, one of the reasons we got her, of course, she looks at academics and activities, and very active and very... her strength is sort of getting things done on time and thinking ahead and making things happen. But beyond that, she's also a professional counselor. Psychology is her field. She studied that, and she was providing counseling services to other schools, like Unison and all. So we were happy to have her here, where children get to meet her if they have issues, to talk to her. She counsels the parents, because we have a very our parent mindset also, getting them engaged, getting them to understand the need for change. Our parents are very price elastic, and if you want to introduce a few good things while keeping it sort of, today, for example, I really believe, and I think all of us in the school, that communications is such an important part of their agenda, right? And to promote communications, it doesn't happen just in the classroom. You have to have extra activities, whether it's debating, whether it is drama, whether it is introducing new ways of thinking and speaking, all those things. And we had to introduce, and so some parents, it took time to get our parents on board with these issues. And she helps a lot with that. So does the principal. Samuel Jaideep, his English is really good, and we've been focusing on becoming, while we want our children to have first-class Hindi and to be able to speak their native language as well, they've been sent to the school so that they're able to compete in a wider world. So we want their diction, we want their language, we want their communication to be strong, so that technical knowledge that they have acquired and the social and emotional strength that they have, that can be put to best use wherever.
And again, as I did ask you, but let me put you again back to a spot. Anything that you have in mind, 2054, how are you going to celebrate the 100 years of Cambrian Hall?
We're going to come to you and all the Cambrianites.
I might come with a stick if I'm alive.
Yes. We're going to come to the team to figure out how to manage and what we should do there. But hopefully we'll do something. It might be virtual. We don't know what will happen at that time, whether how the schools are going to evolve, right? And but definitely we'll be alive and kicking, and not just us physically, but the institution, and the legacy must continue, and the dreams of the founder will remain and be promoted.
Okay, another milestone which is coming in the next 4 years, is the Platinum Jubilee.
Yeah.
So anything that you have in mind that you think that you've kept, apart from the celebration, but any goals that you've kept, that this is what we should be able to achieve in the next 4 years? Anything that you think from boarding, day scholars, teachers, any aspect of the school that you have?
Yeah. We basically, I mean, there are goals that we've set, and initially when we started off, it was a 5-year period because, as I told you, introducing change.
Yeah.
Now, the next 5 years before the Jubilee, I think we'll be talking about consolidation.
Okay.
And I think you'd see a lot more happening in terms of what the children are doing with the C-learning, for example, their academics, extracurricular activities, and I think we'll get much stronger there. And also relevant to the changing times. Hopefully, we'll be able to do that. Boarding-wise, too, we don't want to go very, very big, but we are trying to promote the boarding, and we've reintroduced the boarding because we felt that that was really important. One of the main reason is to promote a multicultural environment, because you have children coming from the Northeast, from Assam, from whatever, and our other children get to interact, they learn to share, so that when hopefully someday one of our children is an IAS officer and he's posted in the Northeast, he's able to understand that culture, their food, and that kind of learning, which is so special when you're part of a community and a family. And I think which is what makes Cambrian Hall special. If you ask
in fact, when you just said that, I'll tell you my incident that happened. I interacted with one of these border boys. This was after the school, around the alumni meet, or I was recording one of the podcasts. So there were like 7 or 8 of them. I just called them because I wanted to click pictures with them. And I asked them, where are you from? So I was so happy that I heard there was somebody from Uttar Pradesh, one from Bihar, there was one from Bangalore, there was one from Himachal, Northeast. I said, wow, this is just wonderful. Nepal, of course. So I was very, very happy and fascinated
Ladakh.
to know. Yes,
Ladakh,
of course. So I said, wow. Because that was new for me. I did not know what all students are here in the boarding. So that's fascinating to know as well. Okay. And ma'am, I thank you very much. We've taken quite a bit of your time, and I understand that you have a lot of more important things to do.
Nothing is more important than Cambrian Hall for me right now.
Okay. Yeah. So before I let you go, how do you? I understand there are lots of initiatives as you already spoken about, but as we speak or as we sit right now, so any prospective Cambrianites who are watching this. Alumni who want to bring their children to the school, or non-Cambrianites, how is Cambrian Hall different, or how is Cambrian Hall coping up with so many institutions and schools coming up in Dehradun, especially since in the last couple of decades, I think we have seen. How are we able to intact that legacy that we haven't, and what difference do you see between us vis-a-vis so many, I could say hundreds of schools now in Cambrian Hall, in Dehradun, sorry.
Yeah, I think what makes Cambrian Hall different, and we're really working also to make that happen in a more serious way, is the environment that we provide, both our faculty as well as our children. It's a family basically, so that's how we like to see, and the extended community includes our Cambrianites. You know? But we are one big community of learners. And then also we are looking at the heart, as I told you, you know, to getting our children to also feel with their heart, so that they're more compassionate, that they're able to deal with the world from a different lens of taking social responsibility. Plus, of course, get outstanding academic support. So I think you're going to see an all-rounded, holistic sort of a child if they're educated here. That's our vision. A child that's able to cope with the emerging needs as and when they happen. And a child that is resilient, which is, I think, a very, very important skill. We're also looking at problem solving, critical thinking, you know, those sort of issues. And just to ensure that our children don't get left behind, every child matters here, and we look after each child. We've also introduced the Cambridge curriculum 2 years ago, and we're just experimenting with it, essentially to get our little ones. We've only done it for the primary. we're not charging the parents anything, but what we wanted to do was to pick on the best in terms of the knowledge and the skills, higher order thinking, the research skills, making maths and English interesting so that our children get a strong foundation and they come up, and your child will benefit from that if they're here. And I think it's been a happy experience. Most of it is positive. And if the boarding here is not going to be like your regular boarding, the numbers will be limited, you know? But the children will they'll get quality care and support. We're focusing a lot on the pastoral care as well.
I really like the vision that you said, and of course how it is being different. Because somebody else told me, and you said the family aspect of it, because I think this is how the culture of the Cambrian Hall were initial days. And when seniors tell me, they used to call their teachers as auntie, because the Cambrian Hall was like a family. So I'm happy to hear that that's exactly the vision that you have in mind as well. Yeah.
And also our team, we're focusing, you know, we've just finished our 2-day workshop for our teachers. And one of the things that came out was that we want a high-performing team that prioritizes the children, and that we are one family and every child matters. No one gets left behind. And what we would like is to see more Cambrianites come back, you know, and be part of this journey.
Okay.
I think.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for your time, and I really enjoyed. I thought it'll go to be a very formal discussion because we've met mostly formally, but I really enjoyed, especially all the aspects about that you said about your childhood, about your experiences United Nations. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Sachin. I really enjoyed it too. And